I want to talk about something, and that is, living as a young woman without breasts and the pain of that, because it's not easy at any stage. It's not easy to be young. It's never easy to be old, right? This age is never easy. Sex is never easy. Being human is never easy. Having human nature is never easy. Okay, so it's never easy. But it's also really never easy to be a young woman who doesn't have breasts. But to be a young woman without breasts and to also have the awareness of why that is. Okay, it's not just that I was born without them, right? And it's not because there was some evil curse, there was some sick disease inside them that I needed to restore my body to health. It was 100% elective, unconscious self-mutilation due to conscious self-hate, due to the most ugly and disgusting thing of all, which is severe emotional turmoil and pain. I mean, I didn't just have my breasts removed for no reason, right? I was in an extreme amount of pain for years before I had them removed, and years after. And I thought that this was causing me so much pain. My breasts are causing me so much dysphoria. This part of my body isn't right. It's sick. It's hurting me. Because I feel so disgusting. I feel so much pain, and it's so gross, it's so disgusting, it's revolting, it's repulsive, and I need to be free of it. This is encumbering me. This is limiting me. This is confining me. This is restricting me. This is alienating me. And in reality, all of those things were happening. I was indeed living in a state of reality where all of those things were true. But it had nothing to do with the breasts. It had nothing to do with this part of my body. It was all psychological and emotional, and had nothing to do with any physical ailment at all. But my breasts were a scapegoat for that disgusting sickness of my mind. And so I had them removed. And when you've come to terms with the true source of the sickness, you understand that this was a unnecessary sacrifice. You think there's some type of cancer, a severe cancer, a cancer that's so severe that you want to kill yourself because you feel hopeless that it will ever heal and that you're going to slowly die this excruciating death. So why not just end it on your own terms now? That's the cancer. And so I cut away the cancer. I had a hypothesis that I was very, very sure about, and I was desperate for relief, and I went to the doctor and I said, I think this is where the cancer is. And I paid to have it removed. About $10,000 to have the cancer removed that was causing me so much pain. And afterwards, I told myself that I feel better. I'm better now. I'm better now. I'm so relieved because I finally had this placebo surgery to cure myself, to heal myself. And then I could be free of that one problem because I have so many, right? One problem is solved. But I didn't really feel better. I didn't feel better at all. I felt exactly the same. Except I felt like I should feel more appreciative that I've now taken this step. I've made progress. I'm like, well, you're still believing this hypothesis. You're still believing this delusional hypothesis. Well, now I'm one step closer. Well, it didn't really help as much as I thought, but paid all this money. I did all this. This is supposed to be the treatment. This is supposed to help me. This is supposed to cure. But I guess it didn't, but it's still the cure. It's still the optimal procedure. It's still the right thing to do. I still was taking care of myself. I still tried, I still persevered on this journey. I'm going to keep doing more steps, I'm still healing. I'm still surviving. And in one way, it is survival. It is healing. It's a placebo of healing, but you are still using it to survive, and it's still a coping mechanism, and you're still alive. But I was still suffering, just as badly as I was before. Except I looked even uglier than before, objectively. And it didn't look right to me. But I said, no, this is my body. This is what I knew was going to happen. And I knew that it would look that way. And it looked as I expected. But I expected to feel a cathartic sense of relief and self-love, and that I could relax and accept myself more, and then it would provide relief for me to sort out some other things. But it was exactly the same. Nothing changed, except that I knew, at a deeper level, buried down, behind many other, distractions, maladaptive coping mechanisms, distractions, self-hating thoughts, all these different layers of denial of reality, that it was wrong. But I was very numb to the alarm bells that were going off. That when you're in a healthy state, when you're in a rational state, or from an outside perspective, an unbiased, undrenched in pain perspective, when your brain isn't saturated in painful chemicals, and you can see clearly, and you can, taste water and breathe and touch a tree and understand that, a larger perspective of things, then the alarm bells go off. And that's what I have to contemplate in the mirror every day that I choose to look in a mirror, right? Every time I look at myself from the bust down, I'm confronted with these alarm bells that I didn't have before. I had them, but I didn't have access to them. The channels of self-preservation and rational thought and acceptance of reality and self were not working. They were broken. They were faulty wires to connect to that sense. And now I have that sense. And now I have cognitive dissonance that I have to accept, because now I feel rational. Now I look at my body and I sort of I've settled into the reality of who I was before, which was a young woman who, you know, uh, a young and like fertile heterosexual woman who wants a mate and a family and to, be part of nature and a tribe and contribute to the community and do all these things and be a rational and competent adult and member of society and the universe. And now I look at and I feel that way, and then part of me instinctually wants to see a normal body, and even see the body that I used to have, even though when I looked at it, I was disconnected and dissociated because I didn't feel those other things and I didn't have access. I had very faulty access to my intrinsic, intuitive nature and acceptance of reality. So when I look at it now, it doesn't look right. There's two things that happen. It doesn't look right. It's like part of me still thinks, that's not really my body, that's a masquerade. It's a mutilated, disfigured. A lot of people use the word mutilated. I think the word disfigured is, to me, the most accurate sense. Disfigured, because that doesn't look right. It doesn't look like a woman. It doesn't look like my body used to. It doesn't look like it should. It doesn't look like it could have. It doesn't look like other people's, bodies. It doesn't look like a woman's body. It doesn't look like me, right? Because I'm a woman, and I very much have grown into that. Because I finally have grown up, and taken the responsibility and the curse and the burden and the labor and the love and the nurturing, the self-nurturing and the acceptance, and come to peace with that, being a woman creature, like a animal, a female adult human female creature, that this is what I look like. I'm my skin, it's like I'm a mammal, I'm like, I've accepted it. And it's not right? I don't have the mammalian function anymore. I don't have the mammary organs, which is a huge part of being a mammal, and so it doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. I'm missing the function, the aesthetic, the nature, the mold, the figure, the beauty, the sensuality. Just that's a huge part of it for me, is the sensuality of it. I mean, just even looking at it, the sensual, objective beauty. I mean, I'm biased because, like, I'm a human being to find it beautiful, right? A human body. But, like, it is beautiful. It is beautiful and sensual and sexual and attractive and everything. And then physically, that's the most painful part, is the physical touch, the sensual experience, and the sexual experience, but even just the everyday platonic self or sexual self, but both the sensual aspect of it, it's gone, you know. And I never really appreciated it or handled it properly, you know, before. But now I do. I am, and I realize that I am, but it is gone. You know what I'm saying? I have realized that I am what I am, and part of it is gone. And so it doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. It really doesn't feel right. And I get the alarm bells, and it also looks wrong. That's the other part of the cognitive dissonance, is it looks wrong. It looks disfigured. It looks mutilated. It looks ugly. You know, it doesn't look human. It looks like there's something wrong. It looks like there's an issue, a problem that needs to be solved. You know, it's a sign of disease. There's the scars and the disfigurements, uh, and the redness and the color and the texture and the skin. It is a representation of sickness, of an ailment, of a disease. And to me, it's repulsive. Not just aesthetically, right? Because it's not beautiful. It doesn't look right, or normal, or healthy, or functional, or natural. But it looks diseased. You know, it reminds me of. So the alarm bells are going off. You know, this isn't normal, and this looks really sickly. And it's like I spend most of my time viewing myself from uh, the the bust up, and that's how I viewed most of my time before, and that's how I'm used to looking at myself. So it's very jarring to then descend the view and observe this unnatural and disgusting and grotesque disfigurement of such a beautiful thing, which is being. Because I look at myself a lot. I like to make videos of myself, and I'll watch them. And a lot of times I make videos of myself crying when I'm in a lot of pain, because I don't have anyone else to look at me, and I don't have anyone else to look at. And looking at another person when you're in pain, you know, someone you love and know, and trust well, and looking at them and seeing their expression, you know, it's comforting. But I don't have, you know, people to look at and mirror me and empathize with me and give me that body language. So I often will look at myself, and it's like just a mirroring of myself, and I have empathy for that person, that creature, because I'm just like, because a lot of times I'm in so much pain in the moment, and I'm just filming this, and I'm just crying and confronting things and processing and grieving and shaking my fist, you know, at everything. And then I'll watch this, and I'll just see a frightened animal when I watch this. When I watch it, you know, because then it's like, oh yeah, I am a person. I'm suffering, and it triggers it helps me to have empathy for myself, and self acceptance, and feel very protective over this creature that's on my phone that's crying, and it looks like me and it sounds like me, and it has a great sense of humor. It's very funny, makes me laugh, and it's sad. It's just heartbreaking. And so it's like my heart breaks for myself, and we break each other's hearts. Because it's just like two reflections of the self. Um, and I didn't have as much access to that before, 5 years ago. 5 years ago, when I was 20, I didn't have access to that. At least I didn't have proper programmed wires of what I did have access to. So now I look at it and I see, that's me. And it's just a shame. I remember when I was doing my psychological evaluation for when I was like, there's something wrong with me, besides like depression and anxiety and ASD. There's something wrong with me. And then I was diagnosed with PTSD, and they gave a fill in the blank associative verbal, linguistic written test, which I love that. And one of the question or statements to answer was, when I look at my body, I ... And my instinct was to say, when I look at my body, I shake my head, because it's just that feeling of disbelief, and like it just incredulous, shame and frustration and anger and sadness and empathy. So I just shake my head, because I'm just like, that's so beyond like my limited human mental and emotional faculties. So I just shake my head. I'm just like, shouldn't be this way, but it is. And that's me, and that's my body. But most of all, that's what I did to myself. That's what I thought of myself. That's how little I understood reality. That's how little I respected being a woman. That's how little I had awareness of the future. That's how hopeless I was. I had no long-term understanding. I was 20, right? So my head that hadn't kicked in yet. And it has. It's been going now, and so I just shake my head. You know, and being like a 25-year-old woman, like single, you know, just sort of, like in the mating sphere, and it's just um it's very alienating. It feels, even though no one really knows, it's still, it's there's physical, you know effects, there's physical after effects, and there's it's a lot of limitations for certain things, clothes. um but it's just like, and most of the time I'm distracted with like other concerns. There's a lot of concerns, and I don't really, um I have just too many other painful things, or interesting things, or sometimes good things to consider. um but just in those transitional moments of undressing and dressing and showering, and just sometimes I'm hot and I just take off my shirt and I'm just like, um, and then I'm confronted with it again, and it's like I don't, you know, like cover it up all the time, and I never look at it, because I'm so ashamed of it or whatever. But like I do see it quite a bit, and but every single time, even just for a moment, it's just like alarm bell. Okay, all right, well, you know, gonna go to bed now, or like take a shower, or cry about some other stuff. And but it's like that pain is definitely still in my body, you know. Um, just the energy, I mean, I have most of my pain I carry right here in my heart space and my chest. So, um, so it really hurts there, and it feels, just this. I'm just saying, this has like really bad vibes. This like whole stretch of terrain. Um, and there's certain parts of my body that have good vibes to me. My hands, like I feel good about my hands, and certain things. But under this, it's it's just, it's like, it's even called top surgery. You know how disconnected that is, like to section off, you know, the bottoms and the tops and of just a complete organism. It's not just a top or a bottom or the left or right. It's like this is a functioning, tangible, extremely complicated, interconnected, woven piece of an entire holistic being. And this crucial element is just yanked off and thrown in the trash as medical waste. It's really disgusting. It's just, it really humbles a person. um, I've been humbled by a lot of mistakes, but that really humbles a person. Like, who am I to like play God, and be stupid and be awful at it, Like, who am I to deny nature? Who the fuck am I to deny nature? Who am I to deny being a woman? Who am I to deny feminine existence? Who am I to deny any of these energies? Who am I to deny sexuality and sensuality? Who am I to think that I have some autonomous cognitive detached power over my sexuality or physicality? It really, it's humbling to a person to realize that they're in existence in accordance with nature. Fucking human grave flaws. We're always trying to have power over nature, aren't we? Man and nature, the dueling forces. But man is a part of nature, you know? And the human body isn't a mechanical, construction. It's organic matter that dies. It has an expiration date. And I decided that part of my organic matter, well, I was suicidal. So I wanted to have power and control over my expiration date anyway, you know. And I'm not saying that I don't have reasons, right? I clearly understand, why I was desperate. I was suicidal. I was 20. I was irrational. I didn't know any better, right? I was naive. I was immature. I was had PTSD that was undiagnosed. Um, you know, I wasn't safeguarded in any way. The adults around me failed me. There's a lot of reasons, but it still humbles a person. to realize that they harmed themselves in any case in a profound way. And I've harmed myself many times in a profound, long lasting, irrevocable, irreversible way. But this one is pretty fucking blatant. This is alarm bells, Frankenstein shit going down every time that I, or I think of it, or it's like, it's just, and it's right by my heart, and that's no coincidence at all that my heart was very close to it, and that I'm this naive child in this very adult, sensual, like nurturing mother, life providing physical form, but I'm like mentally in a fucking 10-year-old, and I want out, and I'm demanding, I'm shaking my fist at God and saying, I cannot stand this. I reject this being. I reject myself, and I reject love because it's hurt me so much to love in this body and exist and be rejected by others, and if it won't be love, then I won't have any part in existing this way, and I must mold myself into this other form that doesn't have these limitations. I'm like trying to become a fucking cyborg, but not sure. It's so many tropes. It's so many cliches. It's so many stereotypes of the human condition that are true. They're cliches because they're very common, because they work to tell the story and the narrative and the lesson and the moral. And the moral of this story to me is, if you reject yourself, there is going to be unconscionable damage done to yourself, others around you, and society. You must accept being and try to flow with it. But the pain, attacks you. And your own brain attacks you. And then you don't want to take care of this thing that's in such fucking disgusting pain. And you resent the very thing that gives you your power and life. And it causes more damage than you than you can comprehend when you're so busy fighting against it and failing. So I shake my head, and I shake my head at this phenomenon, because I'm not the only fool. I'm not the only 20-year-old girl that hated herself and had trauma. I'm not the only ugly, weird, autistic girl that didn't understand that it was okay to be kind of quirky. I am not the only person who was online a lot. They were lonely and isolated and a bit weird, and found this movement that spoke of liberation and promised freedom and joy and acceptance and love and healing in community and pride. I'm not the only one who sacrificed body parts to the cause of venturing into the unknown to try and seek one's fortune and quests, survival against the devil, Probably not. I'm probably not. Probably not the only one who has done that in human history. And I'm not the only one who's done that in modern times, even with all the access to goods and services and items and knowledge and Google and on-demand healthcare and on-demand awareness and political intervention and media access and critical thinking and an advanced brain from years of evolutionary progress. I'm not the only one to have done that. And I won't be the last one to have done that. But I am one of the loud ones, now shaking my fist at the powers that be and not railing against the human condition and my inner 10-year-old for not feeling good enough from neurological damage, but just the ignorance and the vanity and the pride, the sin of pride that's misguiding. The misguided liberal helping movement that's giving these false promises of acceptance and pride to people who haven't been able to sustain that themselves. The pitying movement, the helping, pitying of young human creatures that are suffering from very complex issues. And saying that the cancer, oh yeah, that's right there. That needs to go. Well, it's lazy. It's lazy. And I didn't think I was being lazy when I, deliberated about the surgery for, several years. But I was thinking myself into a corner, and I already felt trapped in a tiny little box, and I wanted to just tear down the walls. I was shaking my fist and tear down these walls. The barrier that prevented me from feeling loved. This invisible force, that was just neurological and social. And it had nothing to do with what I projected it onto. And so we're fools if we think that this is not hubris. It's the vanity that that we can just, mix and match like a pair of fucking socks. Just swapping out body parts and taking off skin grafts from here and there and carving up nipples to resemble, and just be non-functional. And it's not natural, it's just, it's hubris. And I had it, and it's delusion, and I had it. And so, I live with it. That's the hardest thing of all. If you really want to hurt someone, tell them off and then say, live with that. That's the hardest thing. Isn't it happening? But living with how it's permanently changed your physiology and understanding of the fabric of reality and consciousness. So I shake my head, but I have to, I have to accept that it is now part of my personal brand and ecosystem and energy. And it's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. And, but luckily things are so goddamn complex that there's many other concerns. There's many other, I have a lot of other skin real estate to consider and deal with. And other physical flaws, other physical pros and cons, and other emotional and social and psychological, existential and spiritual, financial, and lots of things, So it's even though this is profoundly fucked up, it's still just a speck of dust, compared to the meaning of everything else. And that is at least comforting. And that's what I'll say about that.